Hey, this is Africa Archield coming to you live today. It is Thursday, March 28th, and we are doing Tech 30. It's a 30-minute show which is almost purely Q&A where you can just dial in or actually chat in the chat box next to this video and ask your questions. So I'm really super excited to be here today, and I've gotten in a lot of questions via email. So for this time, I'm going to go ahead and start there, and then I'll be checking the chat periodically during our call, or during our time, I should say. And so let's get to it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to check some of the things that have come in via email. And I'm going to start over here. Okay, so there was this really interesting question that came in. I actually got from two different people. It was about, oops, I want to make sure my phone's off, domain names. Okay, so you have, if you're coming online, you're bringing your business online for the first time, or you're venturing away from having maybe something on Weebly or wordpress.com, I should say wordpress.com, or something like Blogspot or Blogger, and you're moving into really getting your own domain name, your own presence, your own space online. It can be a little intimidating because there's all these different parts that come up when you try to do that. So as the question came in, there was like a lot of confusion between what's a domain name versus a hosting account versus a WordPress installation versus themes versus plugins. Right? So there's a lot of bits in there. We haven't even talked about widgets yet, have we? So I know for some of you, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, no problem. I know what this is. But for others, it's just like, oh, what's going on? So let's just get a little bit deeper into that. So domain name. The first thing you want to do is find out if your domain name is available. And there's a lot of different places where you can get domain names. And so I'm not even going to go into that. I know there's like Namecheap and GoDaddy and all sorts of places. You can look at any of them. I'm kind of probably biased against a few of them rather than toward any of them. Isn't that how it is? So first thing you want to do is see if you can get your domain name. So I know this can cause people a lot of trouble. They're like, well, should my domain name be my name? Are you a personal brand? Should my domain name be whatever product that I'm selling? Should my domain name be, in general, what I'm doing? Should my domain name be who I serve? Into this question, I say, you know what? It really depends. You know, it depends on what you're wanting to do. What I always tell people is to get your own name. Right? You don't want it. It's possible for you to get your own name as your domain. Get it, because no matter what, you can protect that, and that's just an investment in the future. Okay. So as for, should it be my product? Should it be the audience I serve? Should it be any of those other things? It could be those things too. There is nothing bad about having multiple domain names. It's just that you want people to go to one spot at first and build from there, right? So it could be any of those things, but I really do encourage you to try to get your own name. I think that just in the future will be so much more helpful to you. I know a lot of people who started out serving one group and had one particular kind of product, and then as they grew and they evolved in their own business, they switched to something else. So in that case, it's really helpful to have your own name, because you can switch back and forth a little bit if you need to, or as I like to say, pivot to something, or dial it in a little bit more, okay, on what you're doing and who you're serving. Okay, and it's so much easier if your domain and what everyone identifies you with isn't necessarily just one product. Okay, you do want them to identify you with a product, but maybe not necessarily just for your domain name. So I encourage you to get your own. If you decide to go with a product domain name, get that in addition to your own name if possible. And I think it's great to have product domain names. Okay, so I'm not poo-pooing that. I think they're great to have. It's just, it should be in addition to, not instead of, my own humble opinion. Okay, So now that I've gone through all that, so there's a domain name. And I think this is what was really confusing people. At least I know for sure one person that I actually went back and corresponded with a bit more. They're like, I got a bazillion different login names and passwords. So this happens when you get your domain name one place, you decide to host another place, right? And all of a sudden you're getting all these different username and passwords, and it gets confusing. And I should make a note to myself. We should talk about how to create usernames if we have time before the end of our time today. I'll go into a username creation algorithm that will just make things so much easier and actually pretty hard to break the code too. So it won't be able to get hacked easily, like, I don't know, your birth date or your spouse's birth date or your kid's birth date or your anniversary. Those are things people can kind of easily find out. But you want something unique to you that's easy to remember, but that at the same time is very, very different for each site you go to. And I'll explain that a little later. I'm just gonna put that one aside, put a pin in it. Okay, so back to the hosting account. So you have your domain name. So now you have to get a place to host your domain, okay? So it's kind of like you have a house or a set of house plans, and you need a place to build your house, okay? So essentially, you have a domain, which is like your set of house plans, and you have a hosting account, which is where you're building your house, okay? And that is essentially what's going on here, okay? So there, again, there's a lot of different services for hosting your domain, okay? Bluehost, again, GoDaddy. I personally use Green Geeks. There's a ton of them out there. I could literally go on forever. Again, that's where you need to research and find out the best one for you. I think another one people use a lot is HostGator. I'm just trying to remember some of the top ones. All right, so research, figure out which one you love and use that one, okay? Or get a lot of feedback from people who've used the service. That's usually the best way, which is why I moved from one of the other competitors to Green Geeks. And I'll just leave it like that. So you have your domain name now. Now you have your hosting account. So you have your plans for your house. Now you know where you're going to build your house. Okay, you got that land. So now we're going to the WordPress installation. And this is what I like to call like the foundation and the framework of your house. Okay, so no matter which hosting provider you go to, and again, you actually may want to shop it this way, but I would say almost all of them will put the WordPress installation on your site for free. So this is different from WordPress.com. And if you have a WordPress.com blog right now, you're going to find this operates a little bit differently too. It's rather kind of cool. You have just so many more features that you're able to go into, so many more ways to really change up your blog and make it unique. And it's really just like I said, it's those internal bones that, you know, every house has some kind of foundation. Every house has some kind of framework that it, you know, the rest gets built upon. And even if you see two houses that have the exact same foundation and the exact same frame, the outside can look tremendously different. But the interior, that foundation is what we talk about here, and that is what WordPress is, okay? When I'm talking about the WordPress installation. So a lot of hosts will automatically put it on there for you. If they don't, it's usually like what they call a one-click installation. You click it and it loads, okay, and you're done. And of course, if you're having problems, these are things I love walking people through. But it's usually pretty easy. Can look a little intimidating, but it's pretty easy. So once you have that WordPress installation, and again, here's another place where you have another username password, okay? So once you have WordPress installation, so right now what we have to like 3 username passwords potentially. Then in that WordPress installation, remember I said 2 houses can have the same foundation, the same framing, but look completely different when they're completed, when they're done from the outside, and actually even from the inside, kind of. Well, that's your themes and your plugins and your widgets, okay? So let's start with theme. So the theme is what you install on your WordPress site that makes it look different from someone else's installation of WordPress, okay? And there's oodles and oodles of themes. Okay, there's some that will come as default with your WordPress installations because WordPress does their own things, right? They bring out a new one at least every year. Okay, then those will be installed on your installation by default. You can also go out and buy themes, okay? You can also get some themes for free as well. So one place to go searching for themes is Theme Forest. I've used Genesis Framework, which then has what they call child themes. So it becomes like an extra layer of structure, like firming up your structure, maybe if you're in an earthquake-prone area or something, right? Firming up your structure and adding in some different kinds of automations and cool stuff. And then they have themes on top of that, okay? So I've used that before and bought some child themes that go on that. And again, they all look dramatically different. Okay, so theme shopping can be pretty fun. With the people that I work with personally, I have a really basic theme, not even basic, I would say it's pretty advanced actually, theme that I just give to my clients to go and play with, because essentially with that theme, they can create whatever they want. A lot of things that you buy, you're kind of locked into how they're set up. You don't have a lot of room to experiment. So if you come up with an idea in your head, it's almost as if you have to find a theme that matches that idea. Whereas the theme, there are some themes out there, like the theme I give to my clients, where I could say, all right, you know, Susie, go ahead and draw whatever you want your homepage to look like, whatever you want your blog pages to look like, or whatever the page is. You know, just get crazy to your heart's content. Go out there and look at sites you love and, you know, Frankenstein it all together to what you really love. And then we could go in and we can use this drag and drop editor and create that. And that then becomes your home page. And this is without going out and getting separate coders. And again, I'm not against hiring out and getting awesome coders and website designers to do your site. But if you're just starting off, that could be an expense that you can't quite get there for. So here's this theme that's really drag and drop simple, where you can put it all together and you can make something that's different from everyone else. It's just another way you could stand out. Okay, so you have a theme, and what's I think the major difference between like a WordPress.com versus this WordPress installation or some of those other blogger sites is you can use plugins. Now I know someone's going to say, but Africa, you can use plugins on, you know, the WordPress blog site. Yeah, you can, but not that many of them, okay? Here you can kind of go crazy. And again, just as there's a bazillion themes, there's a bazillion different plugins. And it all depends on what it is that you want to do. What's that extra functionality that you need to add to your website? And so that's what all the plugins and whatnot are about. So a lot of plugins also come with what are called widgets. And widgets, usually on the home page or on the blog pages of site, you can put in the widgets, and there's a place in the back end of a WordPress website where you can essentially decide what your home page is going to look like, especially if you don't have the theme that I was talking about, where you're dragging and dropping widgets different places, or especially on the sidebar. So you'll notice a lot of times you go to someone's website, especially to their blog section, and there's a sidebar, maybe on the right side or the left side or both, right? And they'll have different things in there. Maybe it's a search bar. Maybe it's links to other things on their site. Maybe it's links for ads, you know, banner ads or whatnot. And those are things that widgets control, okay? And again, depending on your purpose, depends on the kind of widgets that you'd want on your site. Okay, and the kind of plugins you would use. So I'm hoping now, I should say, usually with plugins and widgets, you don't necessarily have username passwords, necessarily. There's some plugins where, yeah, you still have more username passwords. So, I hope that's helpful. A plugin I can think of just off the top of my head is the plugin, like I have a membership site, a membership plugin on my website. So things that are password protected are just for my members only, just for the clients I work with, you know, so they can enter username, password, and get to that protected information. That's actually a plugin on my site. And that plugin for me, right, is another username password. So I can access different parts of it, not only just on my website, but on the main website that is associated with my plugin, okay? Or the maker of the plugin is what I should say. So I hope that's clear as mud, right? So we've got domain name, like I said, which is really like the plans for your house. The hosting account, which is really where you're building your house, right? They're hosting it. They're building your house on a piece of land, so to speak. Then we have the WordPress installation, which is really the foundation and the framework. The theme and plugins and widgets become, I would say the theme is more of all the, you know, carpet and stuff like the framing of the walls. What are they called? Sheetrock or whatever it is that you're using, and maybe some of your shingles and whatnot, all that kind of stuff. Whereas and could be potentially your paint and all that kind of stuff. Whereas your widgets and plugins, it's really like, let's call that like the appliances and stuff in your house. Just kind of that stuff that makes life easier, right? So I hope that the house analogy helps you understand how all of those bits go together. So I know that came in, that was like a huge question, fairly long answer, but hopefully you get it. Domain name, hosting account, your WordPress installation, or whatever installation you're using for your foundational stuff, and your theme and your plugins and widgets. All right. So that was one. I just want to double check. Anything else going on? Okay, we're good there. All right. So let me get to another question. Ooh. Okay. This had some YouTube questions come in the other day. So let me see. The website question. Yeah, here we go. All right. So I had some questions come in about YouTube. And I don't think I'm going to be able to address all of them right now, but I'm going to address some of them. So one of them was, what's the difference between public, unlisted, and private? So on YouTube, when you upload a video or you do a hangout like this, you typically have a choice whether you want it to be public, unlisted, or private. If it is private, that means someone has to log into YouTube with a very specific email address. So you have to know this information about them. And then they have a link and they'll be able to view it. So it's really like a multi-layered thing in order to view a YouTube video. And for the most part, you just wouldn't necessarily use that for business. Because there's just other ways to make that a lot less cumbersome. Because a lot of times people don't even realize what email address sometimes they have associated with their YouTube account. If they have multiple Gmail addresses, and it gets ugly. Most of the time, what happens is if you want some privacy on your YouTube videos, you do them as unlisted. Okay, so that's really good if you're doing something even like this Hangout. You know, I have it to where it's not just for public consumption. Not anyone can just stumble upon it and watch it. Okay, so it's unlisted. Unlisted means that it's not, and the search results in YouTube, it's not going to come up in that list. That's essentially what unlisted means. So in a sense, that makes it rather private. Okay, public, of course, means that it's going to come up in that search if all the keywords and whatnot are in there and it all comes up. So that's the difference between public, unlisted, and private. Let's see, can you use Google Plus Hangouts to do personal video or for training? Okay, if so, how? That's, again, a longer question, but we're going to try and tackle part of it. Okay, so can you use Google Hangouts to do personal videos? Of course you can. And you can do them for training. So I think the first distinction I want to make here, there are what's called Google Hangouts, and there's something else called Google Hangouts on Air. All right, so they're two different things that pretty much operate the same way, and except for one major way. Okay, Google Hangouts is great when you have up to 10 people kind of going back and forth. So this is where it's great to use for personal videoing, not videoing, but I'd say like a one-on-one training or something like that, and you want to share your screen and you want to collaborate, because there's all sorts of stuff in there where you can collaborate too, right? But then there's also the Google Hangouts on Air. The major difference is you still can have up to 10 people interacting in both, right? Maybe some of the plugins aren't the same in each one, but you can still have up to 10 people or computers interacting in both. But the Google Hangout on Air, you can record. The Google Hangout, you cannot. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve when you're doing your personal video or you're doing your training or whatever it is. If it's something that needs to be recorded, you need to be doing a Google Hangout on Air. The beautiful thing is it automatically records. Okay. Someone would say the downfall is that you have to remember to make it not public, but at least unlisted if this is something that you don't want other people to see. You know, to just be there watching it as you're doing this hangout with someone, which would not be pretty, right? Whereas if you're just doing a Google Hangout, one that's not recorded, only you and whoever's on there can see it. No one else can see it. It is automatically, absolutely private. Okay, it's just like video chatting. Okay, so I hope that helps make sense there. Okay, so then there's a question about Amazon S3. Okay, for keeping it really private. All right, so let's say that you shot a video and that video is something that you're using for training. So my thing is, if someone's paying for training, someone else shouldn't be able to just go grab the link and look for it, because it's, you know, cheating the people who actually bought that training from you, right? If they can just anyone could grab the link or find the link. Okay, so you didn't set the stuff up right on YouTube if you're using YouTube or whatever, or Vimeo or whatever you're using. So I know a lot of people can use other hosting places other than YouTube, because it's the deal with YouTube. You can get in violation of your agreement, the terms and conditions of YouTube, if you're hosting videos there that you're selling somewhere else. Okay, and so you don't want to be in violations of terms and conditions with YouTube, because you can get your whole account shut down, and what fun is that? Right, so that's where these other video hosting solutions come into play. So I'm just going to talk about 3 very quickly: Vimeo, Wistia, and Amazon S3. And any of those you can use if you sell something that they don't care. You're not violating any terms and conditions there. Vimeo and Wistia, they have, I think, monthly fees that you can pay, yearly fees that you can pay to host, and they, you know, have different kind of things on how much space you can take up or how many times it's downloaded or what. Just, you're going to have to go look at their pricing grids to see which one you really like. If you are selling something, you really need to be with a Vimeo Pro. You can't do the regular Vimeo, which is just for non-commercial use. Okay. Again, you're going to be violating terms and conditions if you use a regular Vimeo that's for non-commercial usage and start selling stuff that's on there. They'll get mad, shut you down. Okay, so Vimeo Pro, Wistia, and Amazon S3. I'd say, which one is the cheapest to me overall to use? Amazon S3. What people say the most cumbersome one to use is Amazon S3. What I like about, I'm not a big Vimeo Pro user, but I have used Wistia, and I actually still use Wistia every once in a while, and I use Amazon S3 a lot. All 3 of them have it to where video can only be streamed through a certain domain. So you could set it up that way to where if someone's watching your video, they can't just download it. If they do, they can't just download it unless they're already logged into your domain. Okay, so they're already in like their privatized area. That's one thing I like about that. Vimeo Pro, I believe, Wistia, I know, gives you a lot of analytics associated with the videos, how long they've been watched. This might be really good if you're doing a lot of training. If people are stopping at a certain area or rewinding a lot or all that kind of stuff, you might know that something in there is a little confusing. So I think in that way, using Vimeo Pro or Wistia might be a really great way to go if you're getting really hardcore in those analytics. Okay, Amazon S3, like I said, is probably the cheapest to use. It costs less than pennies per view. They have tons of storage. I think there still is a free kind of starter point where you could just host a bunch of stuff and people can watch it for free. But the reason people see Amazon S3 as cumbersome is you have to have a video player, okay, on your site for it to come through. Whereas Wistia and Vimeo Pro automatically come with players that you can embed on your website. Again, it depends on kind of what kind of plugins you have on your website. So the theme that I give to my clients that they can use as a plugin already has a video player in it, so using stuff from Amazon S3 isn't a problem. There are other plugins out there that you can put on your website so you can stream videos off of Amazon S3. So there's all sorts of workarounds that make it easier. It's about checking out options, okay? And there's a lot of them. But, you know, I'm here to make that process simpler for you. So if you want to, let's talk. Again, I love getting questions. You could say, I use all these different kinds of software right now. This is everything I own. I'm trying to do XYZ. How can I accomplish it with what I have, or what do I need to get rid of, and bring on, okay? And we can go through all of that stuff. That's what Tech30 is about. But it's also about walking through things that maybe you don't know how to do, even with the stuff that you already have. We'll walk through those things too. Okay, but if there's anything else you need, hey, let's talk. You can book time with me to go through your technological stuff at africaarchield.com/talk tech. Okay, so until the next time that we do Tech30, I'm going to wish you peace, love, and joy, because that is truly why I believe that we can build a world that is full of peace, joy, and love the more that we get on our threefold path of financial, personal, and spiritual enlightenment. So with that, I say see you next Thursday.